Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That is my co-host Tyson Gentry. We are back and ready to roll in March Madness, baby. It's so weird having all that action and then immediately just having that break. I know you were texting me, Tyson, and you're like, "Oh man, what's there to do?" Like, I don't even know what to do. It's such a strange feeling.
We go 96 hours or whatever it is straight of just like is Colombian. Like you're getting it from the source. You're watching just nonstop college hoops, and you get the storylines and everything, and you fall in love. And then all the guys that you really liked end up losing second round because that's kind of the nature of the tournament. And then you're finding new guys that you really like as the tournament goes. Like, oh yeah, Michigan State, of course. Everyone knew bad team Izzo. Like, you don't mess with this guy. But we weren't really paying attention to Michigan State against USC. Like everyone just kind of penciled that one in. That was just a game that was on the 68. And now it's like, have you guys been watching Michigan State? And I know damn well nobody was because that the first game was early in the day and the work day. It's just people put money on things and then we're just addicted. And then when nothing happens for a couple days, it's like, yeah. So what are the player props in the World Baseball Classic? Like, what are we looking at?
100%. 100%. So, we're going to do a little Sweet 16 analysis on this episode and give you our best bets that'll be sprinkled in throughout the different region as we go through. And then we're going to try to give you a little early Elite 8 preview since we will not be on over the weekend when it will take place, just where we think the matchups will be and how we see it going down. So, that'll be at the end. We're going to start right now diving into the current bracket. And we're going to start out in the East region. The East and the West are being played on Thursday. And so if you're listening to it today, potentially if you're watching on Thursday. So first game, Madison Square Garden, Kansas State is playing Michigan State. And so this is very interesting to me, Tyson. A lot of Michigan State love, as you suggested. And I mean, to be completely honest, I can see how it's warranted. Beating Marquette, they beat them by 9. It wasn't even that close. But, I mean, Kansas State has not been a slouch in this tournament either.
No, and this is the one I'm struggling with the most because it's good guards and a really good forward on Kansas State, and then you have Joey Hauser on Michigan State. But they're both well coached. You're not going to find positional advantages pretty much anywhere going through this thing. But it's Tang as probably coach of the year versus March Izzo, and that's a scary proposition for anybody who's just kind of figuring this thing out. And Kansas State's been awesome this year. They weren't supposed to be here. Michigan State's not shocked to be here because this is an old team. This is a team that's been to the Sweet 16 before. They know the deal, right? Every graduating class under Tom Izzo has been to at least the Sweet 16. This isn't their first rodeo. For these Kansas State guys, it's like they're looking around, smelling the roses a little bit. Doesn't make me nervous, though. Man, they could score the fucking basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about it in the reaction. They got pounded by Kentucky on the glass. They did not flinch. They kept going right back at Kentucky and eventually hit enough threes where they got some separation and held on to that game. I was super impressed by Kansas State in that one. Now, here's what might be interesting to some people. Kansas State's the 3 seed. They're the underdog to Michigan State here. Ken Palm doesn't agree with that. So he has Kansas State by 1 in his projections. He also has Kansas State ranked higher. He has some 21st, Michigan State 24th. Michigan State, has a slightly better offense, rated 37th. Kansas State 47th, but Kansas State with a better defense, which I think may shock some people with the 17th ranked defense. Michigan State clocking in at 31. As terms of the betting goes for me, Tyson, I'm staying away from this. To be completely honest with you, there's some movement down to the under. Like this opened at 140.5. And as the YouTube viewers can see, it's down to 137.5. So 3 points of line movement towards the under. And the under's been hitting. But for me, I'm staying away from this one. I do not have a bet in this game. I'm going to kick back and watch it.
I mean, you can't do that. This is the first game of the Sweet 16. We got to play. You know that. All those Ken Palm metrics mean to me is that a line of 1.5 points is pretty much spot on either way. I think these two teams are super evenly matched. I'm very, very nervous if I'm a Kansas State fan for what I'm walking into because Michigan State just kind of look like a buzzsaw. Like they come out against Marquette. Marquette presses like crazy. They're up in your face. They get a steal right away and a layup, and it's like, oh, it's just going to be another Marquette game. And then for the next 39 minutes and 40 seconds, Michigan State just controlled it. Marquette made little runs here and there, but Michigan State controlled it. Michigan State comes out against USC and just controls the game pretty much off rip. Kansas State hasn't played that way, and they haven't played that way in quite a while. They've been in dogfights and they've battled back and they've been up big and let people back in the game. Where Michigan State's just they're not on cruise control. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of feels like they're just playing their game better than anybody else in the country. And if you're giving me -1.5 at -110 or money line at -126, I'm just going to take the money line.
Okay, so you're taking Sparty to advance, huh?
Yes, I mean this was.
Oof.
I got futures tickets on Izzo in the Final Four this year, so I just need it for the pockets.
All right, there we go. So Tyson rolling with Michigan State money line for his best bet in this game. I have nothing. I'm gonna stay away from it, man. At this point, these lines are so sharp, but this is a coin flip to me. I mean, if anything, I'm leaning Kansas State, to be completely honest with you. I do get worried that Michigan State hasn't shot the ball well, and they are a good 3-point shooting team. That could be something in a building they're familiar with in Madison Square Garden. Those floodgates open immediately, and all of a sudden, Kansas State's going to have to claw their way back in like they did against Kentucky. But this time, Michigan State's actually hitting shots unlike Kentucky in the previous game. So that's something to keep an eye on. The over, listen, I'm staying away. I honestly think there could be a regression or like an overcorrection from the books, how they're shading everything under right now. If you look at Ken Palm and his projections, every single game he has over the current number that the books have given out. There's a couple in here I think that you may agree with me, Tyson, where I'm going to push back a bit because I think this is a classic zigzag spot. Everybody's hearing about how these unders have been hitting. Don't be shocked if these games are high scoring now, if these teams are settled in. So that's just something to keep your mind on here. Okay, Tyson, go with Michigan State. Let's stay in the Eastern region here and look at Tennessee against mid-major darling FAU. On paper, Tennessee has a huge advantage. They're rated 6th in the KenPom ratings. They have the 60th best offense in the country, but the best defense. Their tempo is at 278 compared to Florida Atlantic's 143 tempo. So a little clash of styles here. Florida Atlantic's offense, very good, 29th. Their defense, 34th. So they are a solid team. Like this is not we're lucky to be here. Like this is a very good team. KenPom has them ranked 22nd in the country. Very older, senior-laden team against another team in Tennessee. We saw what Tennessee did to Duke, kind of pushing around and beating them a bit. Tyson, do you think they can continue that and get away with what they did against Duke against Florida Atlantic?
No, because you said it. They're not going to get away with it again, and that's kind of a big deal here for Tennessee, and it's a big deal for Tennessee bettors. I think on the whole, like if you took names away and you just rolled stats out, this game would be like a coin flip to people. And I understand FAU hasn't played the same caliber of competition that Tennessee has, basically because Tennessee's in the SEC, and the SEC's killing the tournament right now. A bunch of good teams, and Florida Atlantic obviously doesn't have to play the same caliber. They're deep, and they're really good. And they played a 16 seed, and it was an 8-point game, and it was close. FDU was actually a pretty weird matchup for Florida Atlantic. It was like playing the dollar store version of themselves for the most part. Like they do a lot of the same things well. So for them to be able to win that game, I think showed me something that might not appear on the score sheet because Purdue wasn't able to close these guys out. FAU was able to close these guys out. I'm still not a believer in Tennessee's ability to score the basketball, and for that reason, I think FAU is a live dog here, and I don't think they're getting a ton of love.
I love FAU in this spot. We'll discuss it when we pull up the FanDuel odds and give our analysis betting-wise. But let's not forget, this is Rick Barnes, Tennessee. Yep. Like, I'm sorry. They beat Duke.
The dude hasn't made it past the Sweet 16 since the first Bush was in the White House, I'm pretty sure.
He's not a good tournament coach. And all of a sudden now he's supposed to just figure this thing out and like go on a run here. Like, I don't see it. This is not a good scoring team, as Tyson pointed to. 60th. There's 16 teams left right now. Like, yeah. They're just not very good on offense, and they got away with that against Duke. Like, they were able to play their game. They dragged them into the mud and really just bullied them. I mean, they got away with it. I don't expect them to get away with it in this one. And I preface it that way because FAU is a good free throw shooting team. If they are able to get to the line, that's one of the ways that they can beat their opponent. And if Tennessee, if They're doing what they did the last round. I do not think, like, come on, there's been a week off and there are about 5 days between. There was a memo out. Hey, you can't be letting these guys play like that. So I'm not going to be shocked. And I agree with you, Tyson. I think FAU is a live dog here. Currently, the line Tennessee -4.5. This thing opened Tennessee -4. Also opened at 133. It's down to 129.5. Now, Ken Palm has Tennessee by 4. I don't want to spoil anything. I want you to give your analysis here. This is my favorite bet so far of the tournament.
Can
Florida
you do
Atlantic
me a
plus
favor?
4.5.
Oh, you did it. You did it. I
I'm
thought for
doing it.
sure I thought you were just gonna like, oh, my favorite bet of the tournament. I'm not playing. I'm not playing this game. I don't know what's gonna happen. Well, you hit that stats tab for the people on YouTube on the FanDuel there. I just want people to see um, what this looks like as far as how the public is viewing this game, because I saw that earlier and I was pretty shocked. Like, this is a lot of Tennessee love.
Of course.
76% of the money on Tennessee spread, 74% or on the money line, and then yeah, it's crazy. It's too much. And I'm playing FAU straight up. I think Florida Atlantic's going to win this basketball game. I just they're not better. They're probably not better coached. It's March. It's a bunch of seniors, and it's a bunch of dudes that have won 34 games combined with each other this season. It doesn't stop here. And I think that Florida Atlantic gets to kind of take the mantle of this next team, because this isn't the first time we've been talking about the Owls as a team that could make a run in March. This is just the first time they're making a real run in March. And I think this is a program building deal. And honestly, Brad, part of the angle I'm going for here, who builds other programs' legacies better than Rick Barnes? Who loses to bad teams better than Rick Barnes does? And that, to me, like, I'm on FAU. I cannot believe in Tennessee. I just, the Ziegler injury and all that stuff didn't matter for the first 2 rounds. It's going to matter soon, and I think it starts now.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm sprinkling money line. My favorite bet is the plus 4.5. I'm with Tyson on the money line, though, so we are both big Owls fans in this one. Avenge, Duke, baby. Avenge our lost ticket. Come on. Come on. Like that, enough of that. All right, that's going to do it for the East. We'll come back for the Elite Eight preview here. We're going to talk about the West, which I think is extremely interesting when you kind of break things down, Tyson, because it can go multiple ways. And I think all the matchups that we could potentially get are extremely interesting as well. So let's take a look for the YouTube viewers. We got the bracket up here. Arkansas, UConn. Talk about a difference in styles. Talk about a team that can also play similar. I mean, they can both be chameleons when they're playing each other. Both are athletic. Both can get up and down, but both can kind of grind you in the half-court set. Now, Arkansas's tempo is 49th in the country compared to UConn's 213. Now, Arkansas wants to get up and down. They want to get out and Illinois, they are comfortable. And then got in with Kansas. They had to hit shots in the half court and run sets. Ken Palm has UConn ranked 4th in the country, Arkansas 18th. He has UConn 3rd on offense, 14th on defense, Arkansas 51st on offense, 15th on defense, which I think is interesting, because if you look at Arkansas teams in the past, you're like, wow, high-flying offense. Don't really look at their defense as a strength. That's a flip this year. Now, UConn's getting a ton of love, Tyson, ton of love. And like we talked about with Rick Barnes, it is Danny Hurley. What are you thinking for this game?
Well, I do think Danny Hurley's passed some sort of test, at least for me, to this point, and I thought he'd fuck this up already. So him beating Randy Bennett it's a pretty big feather in the cap, right? Beating Rick Pitino, it's a pretty big feather in the cap. Those are good wins. This is the most talented game roster wise that we've had so far in the tournament, I think. These are 2 teams loaded.
Mm-hmm.
I am leaning Connecticut, UConn here. They're just a lot of really good players, man. And you hold Sonogo, right? You hold him to, let's say, 14 and 8. Hawkins has 30. And that's kind of the difference here is UConn has a couple guys that can go get you buckets. Arkansas doesn't really have that. They have to manufacture that, whether that's by forcing turnovers, which they're good at, or if that's by running, which they're good at, or if it's by running in the half court, they're good at that too. But they don't have a guy that they could just say, look, dude, we're down 2, we need 3. UConn does.
I think that could be the difference here. Anthony Black was awesome when Nick Smith Jr. was out for Arkansas. He's shrunk back a bit in terms of the role and how he impacts his team. He could be in for a big kind of reemergence. That could be possible. But UConn also is a bit different than Kansas down low. Like Kansas has good long athletes. UConn just has like bodies and big strong guys that they can just throw at the guards and the big men from Arkansas. I'm leaning UConn here. It is tough trusting Danny Hurley in this situation. There's a ton of love for UConn in this situation as well. But let's get into the gambling look here, because UConn's a 4.5-point favorite as of now. They opened at 4. Now, the other day when I looked, Tyson, UConn was down to 3.5, and they jumped up a point. Looks like there's going to be some buyback back to Arkansas, where this thing initially opened at 4. If not, it's just going to stay here 4.5, 4.25 with the juice. There's some UConn love in this market. And if you pull up the stats here on FanDuel for the YouTube viewers, there's some difference here. 58% of the bets on UConn, but 65% of the money, suggesting some of the bigger bets being placed have landed on UConn. What's your thought here? I mean, that seems like a lot of points on the surface, 2 possessions.
Well, it does. I think I'm going to do something that I never, ever do on this show. And I'm waiting until tip. And I'm trying to get it on a live market, because if UConn comes down within the first 3 or 4 possessions and they throw the ball to Sanogo and he 2 dribbles, drop steps, and gets a dunk, they're winning the game. But what I think is going to happen, and this is why I have to wait, because I'm too scared to just put my money where my mouth is right now. I think he's going to go for a layup, and I think he's going to get sent in the 5th row. And I think that's a tone setter. And I think Eric Musselman's taking his shirt off, whipping it around his head like he was the other day. Like, if Arkansas comes out fired up, good luck. That's been the story with this team for 3 years now. Like, when they're out and they put ski masks on, dude. Like, they're here to take everything you work for, and they don't apologize. There's no sorries here. We're better than you. We're more physical. We're more athletic. UConn can handle a lot of that. I just don't know how they're going to manufacture those points in half-court sets if everything's getting packed. Because if they're not shooting the ball well, which is a very real possibility with this UConn team, sometimes it's like, wow, they just hit 12 threes today on 12 and 24 from beyond the arc. And then some days it's like, UConn hasn't made a 3 in 32 minutes of game time. And I want to see which UConn team shows up. I'm pretty confident in which Arkansas team shows up. If UConn's fired up, I think they can cover the spread. It's just I have a hard time getting a read on it right now. I want to see the vibes, man.
I'm with you in terms of the gambling angle here. As far as like the basketball side of things goes, kind of back to that, I want to see if Arkansas's offense can travel like it's done.
Yeah,
they were really good in spots against Illinois. Just went out, punched them right in the face early, and they took some haymakers from Kansas. Were able to hang in there with their offense. Like, their defense did a good job, but they gave up points. It was their offense that really ultimately took them to the next level. That hasn't been the case for this Arkansas team often this year. We made fun of Tennessee's offense. They're 60th. I mean, Arkansas is not far off, 51st into the KenPom ratings. That's not an efficient offense. It does. I think because they have more talent. And because we're like, oh, we can see these guys playing in the NBA, or we will see them playing in the NBA one day. Whereas Tennessee are just like, these guys are either playing in Europe or they're going to be selling cars. Like, it's just, those are the options there. I want to see what Musselman does to counteract what I think UConn's going to do, which is let's slow this thing down a bit. Let's muddy this thing up. Let's not get their athletes out in space. And I want to see if there's a counter for Arkansas. So I'm with you. I'm going to be waiting for a live game as well. I should have said
this is my favorite game on this whole slate, this entire Sweet 16. I just think this one is going to be an absolute banger.
Well, Tyson, you're saying that, and some people are like, "What are you talking about?" Because we have the second game out in the West, which is the rematch. And it is Gonzaga UCLA rematch. The first one, Adam Morrison, when he got upset by Gonzaga, crying on the court. People may remember that. And then the other one that we referenced in our recap show from the crazy weekend of the first weekend of March, or first weekend of March Madness, is the Jalen Suggs shot that put Gonzaga into the championship game. So there are some players left over from the UCLA team. Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell. Gonzaga, really not so much, right? I mean, Drew Timme was there, but I mean, Kispert's gone.
He was there for the Adam Morrison game too.
People say it's hilarious. Drew Timmy's only played like 4 years of college
I know.
basketball.
I know.
And
He's
everybody's
our.
like, he's been there for 8 years. I'm like, there's actually like people have been there way longer than him. Like, he's actually just played a 4-year college career.
He's just been good for 4 years, and that kind of messes people up. But it does
Mhm.
feel like at a certain point, it just feels like he's picking on some 18-year-olds.
I know. It's like, come on, dude.
Some of these guys
What
in
do
this
you?
tournament are 27, though.
So the narrative in this game here, Gonzaga UCLA, and I want to see if you're buying into this, is man, UCLA is pretty banged up. UCLA is injured. I don't know if we can trust them. And man, Gonzaga is playing really good basketball right now. Do you see it that way?
No, I don't see it that way at all. I didn't see it. I've never bought into the UCLA is too banged up to do well in the tournament thing. That, like, to me, losing on the shot that Ramey hit in the Pac-12 championship, that sucked, and it sucks worse now that Arizona gets bounced and it doesn't look as good. But those are teams that see each other a lot. And Arizona lost to Princeton. It was a huge upset for a reason. They were really good this year. UCLA wants, let's meet you in the back alley. Let's go play some hoops. And I just think that Gonzaga, um, they're silky this year. They're the same Gonzaga team, different faces, different names, a little bit different style. But you don't get in fights in the West Coast Conference. You didn't get like you fought TCU and they did well, I thought, and they a little bit of a fight against Grand Canyon, but you can't sleepwalk through the first half against UCLA. You just can't. I think Jaime Jaquez is the best player in the game, which is something that Gonzaga hasn't had to deal with probably once this whole season. They've had the best player on the court every single time they've laced him up. That won't be the case here. And I just look, dude, it's Mick Cronin in the tournament versus Mark Few. I'm taking Mick Cronin.
And I mean, it's not like Mick or Mark Few is not a good tournament coach.
No, he's a
either.
great tournament coach. It's just I think Mick Cronin is on the current Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches.
Which I think is hilarious too, because remember the old conversation on Mick Cronin is like, man, they get to the tournament a lot, but they could never get to the Sweet 16 at Cincy.
It's
And,
like
and now we're like,
Yancey
man,
Gates or whoever it was, and Sean Kilpatrick. Yeah, he didn't have these recruiting abilities. Mark Few
no,
owns the West Coast. He had for a
yeah,
decade before Cronin showed up.
yeah. I mean, what I'm interested in to see here, and you said it, the players at Gonzaga, they operate in space extremely well. Like they are awesome in the open floor. If you ever watch them late night here on the East Coast, you're staying up to watch these guys just score like 100 points. It's because when they play lesser teams and they're in space, these guys can shoot from anywhere and hit. They're awesome. Malachi Smith, transfer from Chattanooga. He's great. Russier Bolton, 2-time transfer, started at Penn State, went to Iowa State, now ended up in Gonzaga. He's a good shooter. Julian Strother, like people are talking about him as an NBA guy, and then Drew Timme kind of pieces everything together because he's the player that rebounds, does the dirty work with screens, and can go get you 25 from the block. So it's a talented team. They're just not as talented as they've been in the past with these NBA type of players rolling through. And we looked at this Gonzaga team as having a down year, I think, for a reason, because they weren't as good top to bottoms in the past. That's not the case with this UCLA team. Jaime Jaquez Jr. is a bona fide NBA player. He's a top 5 player in this country. Jalen Clark, it stinks that he's out. He's a versatile defender. But what I think the difference maker is Adam Bona, the freshman. He's going to be important when it comes to guarding what Drew Timme wants to do. Now, Timmy's not the quickest guy, Tyson, but what he does is uses his mismatch as well. Like he knows how to use his body. He knows how to get into the paint and spin off of people. I think he's important. He's guarded players in space in the Pac-12 in the past. He's going to be much needed on this one.
And one thing Timme does that might give UCLA trouble is like, I don't know if anybody's better in the country. Like, he's not the biggest or the strongest or the most athletic guy, but he moves people off of spots effortlessly. It's easy. His legs are perfect and his shoulders. He gets everything working in unison, and it's really hard to deal with. I just worry about the others from Gonzaga. I don't worry about the others from UCLA because I have proof. I've seen it. These guys can step up and win games when Jaquez doesn't have it going, and I certainly expect him to have it going today or tomorrow when this game tips. But man, this one, when the brackets came out, this was the game I was most looking forward to. It as it's gotten closer. I mean, we'll get into it with the betting angle. I'm not buying what everybody's trying to sell me.
David Singleton, guard. he rolled his ankle. Fifth year senior. He's been important to them on this run. He's a good shooter, good defender, kind of a 3-and-D guy. He says he's good to go. So UCLA's banged up. He said I'm fine. Rolled up, just sprained ankle, ready to go. Amari Bailey, their highly coveted freshman from Sierra Canyon's been amazing on this run.
Yeah.
He's going to have to continue that down the stretch here. All right, Tyson, let's get into the betting angle here as we look. Right now, UCLA, a 1.5-point favorite. The juice is shaded towards Gonzaga. Now, here's what's interesting. It opened as a pick'em. I think people weren't quite sure about what the injury news was on UCLA, so this was opened as a pick'em. It got all the way up to UCLA -2.5. It's now down to 1.5. So there's been some buyback. Opened at 146.5. It is now 145.5, staying there. Like we said before, this is something that the books have been doing, just adjusting as the under's been pounded more. What are you looking at to do in this game?
I'm playing UCLA -1.5. I'm not scared off by the point. At this point in the tournament, over-unders are scary for me because I've spent, like I said, 90 hours straight sweating free throws from people, and I'm sick of it. I'm done watching a free throw contest the last 3 minutes of the game, hoping that my bet hits. UCLA is just better. They were better when the bracket came out. They were better at the start of this year, excuse me. And they've had to battle through more, and it's just kind of the same old story with Gonzaga, where I feel like people, for some reason, talk themselves into this team, and we talked about it. This is the worst one out of all the previous ones to talk yourself into winning a national championship. They happen to be playing in maybe the most gettable field, though, any of those Gonzaga teams have had to play against. It's just UCLA is full of guys who have won giant games. Gonzaga has one or two guys that have even played in giant games. And so I'm going with the experience, and I'm going with the team, honestly, that they were 1.7 seconds away from threatening for the fourth one.
I'm going UCLA as well. I'm with you, man. We've been talking about this team. I think they're better than Gonzaga, at least this version of Gonzaga. If they had Clark, I think this is a slam spot on the UCLA Bruins. But I'm just going to ride him here money line. I'm not sweating out these free throws because, like you said, that's a pain in the ass. And here's mainly why as I look at it. Now, KenPom has UCLA as the third best team in the country. Gonzaga the seventh. UCLA, he has the second best defense against Gonzaga's number one offense in the country. So this is a matchup. Which one's going to break, that UCLA defense, or is Gonzaga's offense getting slowed down? But where I think the difference is, UCLA's offense is 21st in the country. Gonzaga's is 75th. That's not good enough to win a title, and that's really not good enough, I don't think, to get to an Elite Eight. It's going to be hard for Gonzaga to score. I do not think it's going to be difficult for UCLA to score. That's the difference in this game. UCLA also can slow this game down. Their tempo at 244 in the country. Gonzaga's at 40th. I don't think Gonzaga is going to be comfortable playing in a half-court set where their athletes are going to have to shoot contested shots instead of the open ones that we discussed at the beginning of this. I like UCLA money line. That is the team I'm riding with. They're going to the Elite Eight.
Doesn't it feel like Gonzaga has to be perfect?
It does.
This thing done, and it doesn't feel like UCLA has to be perfect.
No, definitely not. And that's why I think that's why we're leading with the Bruins. All right, let's keep this moving. Let's go to the South region where this is where the Cinderella lays, Tyson. This is Cinderella's castle here. I think that may come to an end though as we get this going. As I pull up the East Coast bracket here, or the Southern bracket, I'm shocked that they're having the first game first. To be completely honest with you, Alabama's taking on San Diego State, which you should probably expect to be a rock fight here. Alabama's second in the country, according to KenPom. San Diego State 14th. Alabama's offense 18th. San Diego State's 70th. Alabama's defense third in the country. Wow. And San Diego State's fifth in the country. Alabama's tempo fifth. San Diego State's 263rd. So clash of styles. I honestly didn't realize that KenPom had Alabama's defense rated so high, but it makes sense. They've been awesome on that end. What do you expect to see in this one?
I'm struggling with this game a bunch because I love San Diego State. And Bama looked gettable for 20 minutes so far in the tournament. Granted, they played 80, but those 20 minutes still exist. It's just this is the Alabama team that I think people should be scared of more so than when Brandon Miller has everything working and they're scoring the ball at will. Because he didn't play well against Houston when they battled back from 16 down to beat them. He didn't play well in the first round when they put up 100. He didn't really play well in the moments that mattered against Maryland, and they win that game by 20. San Diego State's been awesome. They had a little bit of a gift getting to play Furman in the second round. They got to play him early too, so you don't have to sit around all day and see the other upsets and kind of start getting nervous. Their defense to me is better than Alabama's, and I understand the metrics say otherwise. It just feels more complete with San Diego State. It kind of feels like it's a machine where Bama is just like, we're better than you. We're staying in front of you, and good luck, because once you get behind us, somebody's going to jump 40 inches off the air and block your shot. I think just Alabama to me, we talked about it when the bracket came out, man. You and I both just put them in the Final Four and work backwards. And San Diego State's been great so far this tournament. They have a great team. It's a great season. I'm still putting them in the Final Four and working backwards.
Yeah, same me. I expect Alabama to win this game. They just have better athletes than San Diego State. That's not to take anything away from the guys at San Diego State. Like, they're a really good Mountain West team. They've been a really good program under Brian Dutcher, but I don't think, have an NBA player on that roster. I mean, Matt Bradley might be the closest one. He's not efficient enough. And meanwhile, you look at Alabama. I mean, Brandon Miller's top 3 pick in my book. Javon Quinterly, I mean, he may be able to play, and there's a couple other people on that team who are going to get looks in the NBA. A couple one and done guys. You don't have that at San Diego State. So I'm with you here, man. Alabama's going to win this game, but as we take a closer look at the gambling stuff here, Tyson, I think this is where it gets interesting, because right now Alabama's 7.5-point favorite, and they opened a 6-point favorite. It's been bet up to 7.5. So a lot of movement there. This also opened at 139. It got bet down to 137.5. I think that could be an option. Let me pull up the stats here to see where people are doing. Yeah, 63% of the people are on Alabama here on FanDuel. 65% of that money wagered is on Alabama as well. So people are liking Bama in this spot. Are you looking at anything regarding the over-under or San Diego State getting a couple possessions?
7.5 is really interesting because in the Sweet 16, and we'll talk about it later too with the Miami Houston game, but 7.5 in the Sweet 16 is huge. To me, it just feels like Bama should win this game by 12 points. You don't know what happens in the last 3 minutes of the second half here. You don't know if San Diego State hits a couple threes and all of a sudden cuts that thing down. I'm way more comfortable playing San Diego State plus 7.5 than I am Bama to cover 7.5 the other way. Like, a Bama money line play on a parlay makes the most sense to me for this game. I want San Diego State to win this shit so bad. I want him to beat them so bad. Do you see what Saban said when they kicked the football player off the team?
I did.
That was about as direct of an indirect shot as you can make. It's not great over there in Alabama. It's not great in Kentucky either, but that's a discussion for another day. San Diego State in the points. It's just 7.5 is a ton. I'm worried they don't score enough to keep it close for long enough to get to a 10 with 3 minutes left kind of situation, and that's the scariest part. But I'm going to rock with the guys that have made me quite a bit of money this year. San Diego State's been really good to us.
My concern is they are not able to score as much as well. I'd love to take San Diego State plus the points, but if they go on these droughts, Alabama can slowly but surely inch their what do you call it? The deficit, increase their lead, but I think more than this number. So that's why I'm going to take the under. I mean, I'm looking at this 70 to 60 is 130 points, Tyson. I still get 7.5 points of wiggle room. I'd be shocked if one of these teams, if not, I mean, both these teams, I don't see scoring in the 70s. I definitely don't see Alabama scoring 80 points on this defense. So I'm going to take the under 137.5 points. I like it. Ken Palm has us at 138, so comparable here, and he already is overinflated. I think this is the closest that I've seen to the line as well. So I'm going to take under 137.5 for my best bet in this game.
Yeah, and this might be a first half underlook as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see a first half under. Okay, let's move on to the next game in this bracket here, Tyson, in this region. Creighton taking on the Cinderellas of Princeton. Now, the metrics are going to suggest that Creighton's going to stop them. Creighton's 12th in the country. Princeton 91st, Creighton 23rd on offense, 13th on defense, Princeton 100 on offense, 96th on defense. On paper, this is a total mismatch, but Princeton did not shoot well to beat Arizona. Princeton then blew out Missouri when they started shooting the ball much better. Creighton's been impressive to me because I was a big proponent and fan of Creighton prior to probably January. And then things just kind of went off the rails a bit for Creighton with Kalkbrenner getting hurt. And then you didn't really know which team was going to show up here and there. When they're focused, they're extremely good. Where do you see this game going? How do you picture this game going down?
Well, I mean, it sounds weird for a 15 seed, but Princeton got probably the best draw they could have had in hindsight with Arizona, just the way that they play and the fact that they're allergic to taking advantage of mismatches. And then Missouri just wants to run and run and run and run. And they turn the ball over a bunch, and Princeton doesn't. And that was the difference in that game. And, yeah, they blew them out, which was crazy. But that was always on the table for Missouri. Missouri could have lost by 25 first round, and nobody would have been shocked either. McDermott's not going to let these guys in Princeton. He's not going to let Princeton kind of dictate the pace in a way that the other guys have so far. I think Creighton just has better athletes. They have better players. They're better coached. And to be honest, one thing that's pissing me off about Princeton, everyone's talking about how cool it is that the little guys here, don't they have like $100 billion endowment? Aren't they they're doing all right? Okay, so they might not be scholarship players, but you don't, if Ivy League schools, if you're good enough to get into the school and you can play basketball there, good for you. Creighton is here to make a run to the Final Four for the first time. I think one of the plays that you have to have in mind is Creighton scored the most points of any team this weekend. I think that's certainly on the table. They spread them out. They go low. Kalkbrenner has 25. And, all is well. St. Louis, right? Where is Creighton?
They're in Nebraska. Omaha.
Gotcha. Well, all's well in Omaha.
I like Creighton to win this game. I think they dominate. I think where it gets interesting is looking at the point spread here because they're 9.5-point favorites. And a lot of people are like, man, that's a lot of points. They opened 10.5, got bet down. Princeton immediately was bet down to 9.5, which I think was surprising to me. Now it looks like that's going to go back up. Creighton probably are going to be a double-digit favorite by the time this thing goes off, but it may just stay at this 9.5 minus 120. The bets are in. Books are kind of like, all right, this probably should be 10, but we'd rather leave the loser win on a hook here. Total opened at 140.5. It's now been bet down to 138.5. Now that's interesting to me because, like you said, I could see Creighton blowing the doors off this team by just
85.
Right, by just outscoring them, and then Princeton can hang around by shooting threes. Let's look at this here. Now, 72% of the bets are on Princeton, 67% of the money. I listen, they're a fun story. It's cute, it's cuddly. Creighton's a better team. I'm gonna be taking Creighton minus 9.5. I'm gonna hold my nose because I'm not quite sure what team shows up for Creighton, but I'm gonna back them in the spot here. I hope they don't let me down.
You know what? I'll do it with you. I wasn't going to have a play, but I'll tail the 9.5 there. Again, though, I am cheering wholeheartedly for Princeton.
Tyson likes the underdogs. But he puts his money on the favorites. It's weird like that. He's like, it's like no, it's a good hedge actually. It's emotional.
An emotional hedge. Yes, it's because if I'm right on the bet, then I get to be sad with some money, and if I'm wrong on the bet, then at least the thing I wanted to happen happened.
Man, that's a good point.
I'm a Mets fan, man. You learned this early.
All right, let's get into the Midwest region here as we finish up before we give a quick little run through our Elite Eight predictions and projections. Now, this one about as close to chalk almost as you could get here. I mean, if Indiana beat Miami, it would have been chalk. So let's take a peek at the bracket for those people joining us on YouTube. Houston, Miami in the 1-5 matchup. Houston first in KenPom ratings. Miami 32nd overall. Houston's offense is 9th in the country. They're also 4th on defense, staggering there. Miami 11th on offense, but 108th on defense. Oh, boy, not good. Now, Houston slows this baby down. 342nd in tempo. Woof, snail's pace. And Miami 99th in tempo. How do you see this going down now? Because I can see Houston getting up and down, but they haven't done it as much this year. How do you picture this baby going down?
It's going to be interesting. And I will say with Houston's pace, it's kind of funny that they're able to put 80 on Auburn because they had to go. They had to get going, and they got going, and they scored a bunch of points. I think Miami's going to do the same thing to them. I think they're just going to say, like, we're going out the same way we came in. We have better guards than you. Let's see how this works. And it's going to have to be. I thought Isaiah Wong in the round of 32. I think he had probably his best game that he's had in a month and a half for Miami. So if that keeps rolling, like it's the best backcourt left in the tournament probably. I have confessed my love for Jim Larinaga over and over and over again. I think him being 73 years old, this might be a spot where we might be getting close to the last time this dude coaches college basketball. Houston's way better everywhere but two spots. And those two spots get the ball every time up and down the court. And you could say Houston has better guards because they have better NBA guards. I think Miami has better college guards. I think that's a pretty big deal here. It's a pretty big differentiator. Houston's better, man, but Miami's going to make this thing a game because that's what they do. And they're carrying the water for the ACC, and I know that you need them to win this.
Oh man, the ACC needs them to win it. That's for sure. Like they need to have a team just continue to go far because it's been such a bad season for them. But I agree. I mean, Houston's the better team on paper, eye test, whatever the case may be. Houston is better than Miami. So let's bring up the odds here. Houston 7.5-point favorites, which seems huge, right? But Houston opened 6.5. This got bet out to 7.5. Over under, it opened at 139.5, bet down to 137.5. Now back up to 138.5, which is interesting. So a little buyback there. Now, Miami could be the public side here, right? Houston struggled. Miami's looked impressive. Let's take a peek. They are. 68% of the bets here on FanDuel are being bet for Miami, but 64% of those bets, or 64% of that money being wagered is on Miami, suggesting, maybe there's a little bit more money on the Houston side than the amount of tickets, which is definitely interesting. I have a play in this one for sure. Tyson, do you have a play in this game for sure?
Yeah, and I hate it. I hate that I'm about to do this, but I'm gonna do it on Friday as well when I get back from the casino. I think Miami at 7.5 is where I'm going, but I'm gonna play Miami money line. I'm gonna do that as well. I haven't been overly impressed with Houston in a while. Before the season, and we did a college basketball preview show, and I said that if anybody beats these guys this year, I'll be shocked. Well, I'm about to get shocked because I think Miami's better. I think the way that they're playing right now, they're going to be able to score the ball. And I don't know about Houston. Like, I'm still worried, and I shouldn't be because they've given me no reason. When it was time to get up and go, they got up and went in the first round and in the second round. Miami's played better teams to this point in the tournament, and they've looked more impressive to me doing it. I'm not going to be shocked, Brad, if this is a 3-point lead either way for 40 minutes.
I think they both score over 138.5 for me here. I'm not scared by that juice. When I look at the matchup, Miami's not going to be able to stop Houston. Like they just haven't been able to stop anybody. I think Houston gets whatever they want on the inside. They haven't been as good as an offensive rebounding team as in the past, but I think in this game they will be able to. Although Omier has been great for Miami since coming back from his ankle injury, but Houston's going to be able to get inside and score the ball, and Miami's going to do the same thing. Like they're going to be able at times to speed this game up and make Houston play at their speed, which I think it will benefit the points being scored. So I'm going to take over 138.5 here. I like both these teams to get into the 70s. I think Houston does win the game, although Tyson's pretty confident in Miami pick. I think Houston advances, but over 138.5 is my best bet in this one.
Damn, dude, these lines are sharp.
All right, last game here. Tyson's boys of Texas taking on Xavier, who, quite honestly, I mean, my goodness, are they lucky to be here or what? As they barely snuck by Kennesaw State, and then Pittsburgh, that team, sure, they got to send the Iowa State a Christmas card for just not bringing their offense. But here we are. I mean, they're in the Elite Eight, right? You got the 2 versus the 3. Texas, the 5th-ranked team, according to Ken Palm. Xavier, the 15th. So while we may hate them, the advanced analytics doesn't. A lot of this has to do with their offense. They're 7th in the country on offense. Their defense has been much improved. ranking 64th. They were, I think, down to triple digits at some point. So, I mean, they've improved a bit. I mean, as they've been playing more, not very hard to do. It's one of the only teams left playing, but they have gotten better, I guess. Texas 15th on offense, 10th on defense. I think that's the differentiator there. And Texas 100th in tempo, Xavier 33rd. So they want to go. Xavier, they want to get up and down the court. Now you're a big Texas guy here. How do you see this one going down?
What percent chance, like what odds would you give Xavier on any given day to outscore Texas against any random opponent? Because I hear the metrics and I get it and I understand, and it's the Big East, right? This is kind of the way that they play, and Xavier puts the ball in the hoop. When it comes time for good offenses to play Texas, they can't score as much as Texas. And that's just kind of the difference, man. And I'm still worried Marcus Carr is going to shoot them out of the tournament. He hasn't yet. He's actually played really well. And you can see on the screen right now, Texas 71, Penn State 66 last round. I wouldn't read too much into the 5-point differential there. It was Texas's game. No offense, my friend, but it was Texas's game essentially the whole way. They're just better, man. They got better players. Dylan Dessou is still, to me, the best college basketball player in the tournament. I don't mean that skill-wise. I still mean that in the way that he plays, like how when you picture somebody playing college basketball, that's who I got. Xavier's not going to be able to stop them when they throw the ball to him on the elbow, clear out the whole side. He's getting whatever he wants. Xavier's going to have to shoot the shit out of the ball. And Texas has beaten really good teams this year who have shot the shit out of the ball.
Penn State, they had a lead late in the second, then Dylan Dessou took over. There was no matchup that Penn State could throw at him, and that's kind of Tyson's point. He's a hard matchup. Like, he's super long, has long arms, can shoot over the top of a lot of people in college basketball, and that really has been the difference for Texas. Like, they've gotten to this next level as a team because of the emergence of Dylan Dessou, because it's so hard to guard him. Like, Kansas had a hard time matching up with them, and that's there's dudes on Kansas, like like NBA level type of guys on Kansas, and he just was the difference. And I don't see that changing here. Xavier, not overly impressive. Like, I think when they look good, that offense is ridiculous because they have shooters, they can fill it up. The problem is that their defense is just not good enough. Like, their lateral quickness is not there. Like, it's really hard for them to stay in front of guards, and that's what Texas has. Timmy Allen, I think, could be a big-time X factor in this one. He's been quiet. He's been doing a lot of the rebounding and dirty work, but I think this could be a game where he goes off. Marcus Carr has been quiet too. This could be a game for Sir-Jabari Rice. He had that big game against Colgate and was off against Penn State. This could be an explosion spot for Texas here, Tyson, to be completely honest with you, especially against Xavier's defense. Now, let's take a look at these odds. Texas right now, -4.5. It has opened Texas -3.5. So there has been money bet on Texas to get them up a point here. Now, it opened 148.5, staying at 148.5. Ken Palm actually has Texas by 4, but the over-under at 154. Now, you're the Texas guy here. What do you think you're going to do?
I'm smashing Texas -4.5. I totally agree with you. I think this is blow-bys all day. You're not staying in front of the guards. I think we're catching lobs, we're dunking, we're celebrating, we're running around doing the airplane wings, all that stuff that Texas likes to do when they get up. And honestly, they've earned the right to talk shit this year because everybody that they've played outside of TCU and Kansas State have really not given them a bunch of problems for the last month and a half. They've kind of just passed the test every time. And I don't anticipate that changing. I think Penn State's a harder matchup for him than Xavier is. And I don't think Xavier should still be in the tournament either. And that might be clouding my judgment here a little bit. But I just think Texas – I gave out Creighton as a team to maybe score the most points this round. But if you're going to play just one, I'm playing Texas.
51% of the bets here on FanDuel are on Xavier, but 61% of the money are on Texas. That's suggesting to you the bigger wagers are on Texas. The more kind of professional type of bettors are on Texas here. So I'm with you, man. I'm going Texas -4.5. I didn't even look at this actually until now. I actually forgot this was a feature on FanDuel that you could look at this type of stuff. So I didn't even know. I was just like, man, Texas is going to pound them. And the fact that we get -105 here too, instead of like the standard like juice or like -110, that's a bonus. I love it. So Texas, they're just better than Xavier, man. Like it's just one of those things. Now, Rodney Terry, this is his first time, new head coach of Texas, but he is coaching for his job. They haven't given him an extension yet or a full-time contract as he's still, they got the interim tag on him, which I think is crazy. But Sean Miller, another one of those coaches who's not very good in the tournament. I think Texas gets this done. I think Texas blows out Xavier.
And if they don't, how many memes are we getting of sweaty Sean Miller?
Oh my gosh, dude. We're gonna get a ton of memes, dude.
All of them.
We're gonna get all the memes. All right, so that's gonna wrap it up for our Sweet 16 analysis and best bets. Let's jump into a little Elite Eight preview here, Tyson. Now we may have a couple different teams here, but I'm gonna pull back up the bracket just so we can have a visual for our YouTube audience and just kind of walk everything through it. So, I mean, in the Midwest, I mean, here's where let's start here because it's going to be interesting. You like Miami, that's what you're betting. I think it's Houston, to be completely honest with you. So I think it's Houston versus Texas. How do you see that matchup going down? Then walk through how do you think Miami, Texas goes down since you like Miami?
Well, the Houston versus Texas, I think that's something that I'm sad that I'm so in on Miami because that's a game that I really, really want to see. That would be fireworks. I think that would be, and I said earlier the UConn game probably has the most talent at this point. This thing would blow that out of the water. This would be basically how many NBA scouts are in attendance at a Texas Houston
Oh my
game?
Goodness. Oh,
at least 5 reps from every team. There's 150 guys in the gym just with notebooks writing stuff down. Texas is just better. I mean, this has been a ticket that I've held for a long time. It's a stance that I've held for a long time, and I'm not going to back off of it based on what I've seen. Texas drew a tough 15 in Colgate, got him out of there. A tough matchup with Penn State, got him out of there. I think they get Xavier out of there. I think they get Houston out of there the same way. And nobody's won more big games this season than Texas.
I like Texas come out of this region. We both did. I think if it's Miami, that's a great matchup for Texas. It's guard on guards. That's an over for sure. Matching up with Houston, now I think that's going to be more of a dogfight. Houston might be able to get them, slow the pace down a bit, figure out the weaknesses in Texas defense because they do have some. I mean, they do allow points. Like we've seen people be able to score against Texas. But I come back to this, man. Auburn, I mean, quite honestly, should have eliminated Houston. Houston
horrible second half performance.
Awful by Auburn. Just absolutely inexcusably bad in the second half, and that's why they're going home. That's why they're sitting at home. Houston has an opportunity to kind of right that, but I think they'll run into a team in Texas that's just as good, if not better than them. I expect Texas to win and advance to the Final Four, regardless if they play Houston or Miami. Let's roll through the West here. Arkansas, UConn. Now, we both believe UConn's advancing here, correct?
Yeah.
Say UConn versus UCLA. Again, we've been big on UCLA. I'm going to trust Mick Cronin over Danny Hurley when it gets down to this type of game. They have the bodies, and UCLA has the bodies to match up with UConn's size. They do, and I think UCLA's guards are better than what UConn has to offer. That's the edge I'm giving UCLA to get back to another Final Four.
I believe in UCLA to make the Final Four as well. The scary part is, like, nobody left in the tournament, and this includes Alabama, this includes Texas, whoever you can think of. Nobody can go nuclear the way that UConn can go nuclear. UConn can just say, okay, we're scoring 30 points in the next 3 minutes, and good luck. So we're going to come down, and we're just going to shoot threes, and that's going to be that. And I think UCLA would struggle in a game that kind of shapes up that way because, like we mentioned with UConn and Arkansas, they can both be kind of chameleons. UConn has no identity to me, and that's part of the reason I wasn't all the way in on them to start the tournament. I'm kind of coming around to the fact that, like, their identity is just whatever game you want to play, we'll just play it a little better than you. And I think that's scary for everybody left.
Moving on over to the East, the crapshoot of them all. Now, Tyson, from the sound of it, I mean, we have FAU advancing to the Elite Eight. Are we
we're so dumb. We're so
Let's
dumb.
do it. Hey, listen, man, I'd rather be dumb than believe in Rick Barnes again. So it's either being foolish or it's either being dumb. I'm good with being dumb, not foolish.
Yeah, I'm not a fool. I'm an idiot. There's a difference.
Exactly. There's a difference, people. Michigan State. Now, it seems like this is going to be Michigan State advancing to the final. God, this is such a joke of a region. Why couldn't Duke just figure out? Why couldn't Duke get the only team that didn't get a whistle in the entire tournament, dude? This is their region.
Oh, we're walking to the Final Four, man.
Oh, my God. So frustrating. How it's set up here, it looks like it's either going to be Kansas State or Michigan State to come out of this. If FAU beats Tennessee, which we think is going to happen, I think FAU can get by Kansas State. I don't think they can get past Michigan State.
See, I'm kind of flipped on that. I think they give Michigan State a game, and I think Kansas State just has too many scores.
Interesting.
I think that Kansas State can just put the ball in the hoop better than FAU can, and I don't know. I don't want the Florida Atlantic run to end, but I really think that Michigan State comes out of this, and they're playing in Houston on April 3rd. Really, really well-oiled machine that they have right now. Like, it just kind of feels like it's easy for Michigan State right now, and
I know.
it's been easy for 120 minutes so far. It feels like.
Yeah, and they haven't even hit shots yet, which is even the crazier part. So back at MSG, oh man, it could be an explosion coming. We both have Alabama versus Creighton. Now, I think this is going to be a game. Now, people have Alabama, and we did too, walk into the Final Four. I think they're going to have to jog a little bit if they play Creighton. Like, I don't think it's going to be an easy game. Creighton, actually, their metrics are insane. It's hard to trust them a bit, but I mean, this is the furthest that Nate Oates has gone if he's getting to that Elite Eight point. So, not like McDermott's really been a proven coach either, so they're in new territory either way. But Creighton has some guys, man. They have some guys that can match up with Alabama. Ultimately, Alabama has too many good players, and they beat Creighton and are in the Final Four.
And that's kind of the deal with this, isn't it? Creighton has a bunch of guys. Alabama has the guy. And that's going to be the advantage Bama holds over everybody that they play. But I think it'd be pretty prevalent in the Creighton game. If he's not right against San Diego State, then all of a sudden we opened a whole other can of worms. Because if he shows up and doesn't play well again, then maybe I'm talking myself into something. But that's a game that I'm looking for the over-under in that one because that could be fireworks.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that, Tyson. I just can't wait, man. Oh, this is going to be so good. We're back into the lab. We're back. Nope. Nobody's texting me on the weekend. None of it. We got some games to watch, man. Are you kidding me?
Yes. And if you want to find our picks for these games, we just gave them out, but obviously the Elite Eight will go different than what we predicted. We're not 100% on the year, unfortunately, so I don't anticipate us sweeping the board here. They will be in the Chalkboard app. It is on the App Store. It's on Google Play. The group name in there is the Round Table. We're just trying to build a little community in there. You know, we have got spots for you guys to throw bets in. We can tail, we can fade. You can tail us, you can fade us. Brad and his brother have thrown down 2,000 golf bets in the last 11 hours. I'm pretty sure.
Match play, baby.
So it's fun. Like, we're in there, NHL, NBA, NFL draft stuff, NCAA football, NCAA basketball, anything you could think of, we're probably playing. So hop on in there and just let us know how you're feeling, because we did all right to the first couple rounds of the tournament, but the Sweet 16 and onward, like, you know, you got to be sharp. You have to be good enough to get around some of the angles that people are pushing in the national narrative, and that's kind of a big deal.
100%. 100%. So definitely join that. Like Tyson said, we'd love for you to join and share some of your bets as well and build up this community. But also, I mean, communicate with us on Instagram at _the roundtable pod _, or if you want to follow us on TikTok, it is the same handle. And then send us a tweet anytime at TRT _pod. If you have questions, anything, advice, whatever the case may be, or if you want to just talk shit, send us a tweet. We don't care. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, or if you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify or wherever other podcast platform you listen to, we really appreciate the support. Like, subscribe, and share. Help us grow this thing as much as possible. We'd really, really appreciate it as it helps us climb the charts on both YouTube and the podcast platforms. We will be back. We have our draft dive coming out later this week. Next week, we're going to react to what happened as we get ready for the Final Four, and also more and more draft preparation as Tyson is reading a bunch of the smoke coming out and he's getting excited. We will talk to you guys then. Peace.